Having a trip to Boston coming up in quite literally less than 24 hours. I will be in Boston, so if for some reason I have any fans in Boston, well, you won't see me, but if you do, you won't. Anyway, Payton Pritchard is probably my favorite player on the Celtics and the only player on the Celtics that I genuinely enjoy watching when the time comes. Today I want to break down Payton Pritchard's game, show a little bit of his highlights, break down how he gets his buckets, talk about his past and his college and his high school recruitment, while also getting into a few other things. I don't really know, but I love Payton Pritchard. I do respect the Boston Celtics. They built a nice squad. They've drafted nicely. They signed the right free agents. They bring back the right guys. It just ended up being the right calls over and over and over again with Boston Celtics, and that's why they're a dynasty. That's why they're one of the most successful franchises ever. But Payton Pritchard is one of my favorite bright spots. If you like what you see, like and sub. And yeah, let's get right into it. Payton Pritchard was a 4-star recruit coming out of West Lynn High School in Oregon in the 2016 class high schoolers. He was a 6 foot, 188-pound point guard, which if we compare that to the AJ Lawson video that either you saw before this or it's coming out after this, he weighed about 20 pounds more than Lawson and is 6 inches shorter. I'm 6 foot and I weigh about 165. So Payton Pritchard was a kind of a beefy point guard, but I'm sure it was mostly muscle. 4-star recruit, number 1 player in Oregon, the number 11 point guard nationally. And when we take a look at who was in front of him, there was guys like Lonzo Ball, De'Aaron Fox, Dennis Smith Jr., Cassius Winston, some legends at the college and now NBA level. But he was the best player in Oregon, which I feel like is kind of a flex. I feel like Oregon has a decent hoop culture, but nothing too crazy. Probably a little bit below Illinois, but probably better than some other states that are bigger than Oregon. He was really torn between 2 schools. According to the Crystal Ball expert predictions, he was about 60% were guessing Oregon and 40% were guessing that he would commit to the University of Oklahoma. At the end of the day, he would choose to be the hometown hero and commit to the University of Oregon. The only thing that would have been funnier is if he would have ended up getting drafted by the Portland Trailblazers and he was just a complete Oregon boy forever. Payton Pritchard, however, though, was a very good player throughout his college career, but he really showed out during his senior season. And I'm really only going to talk about his senior season. If you want all of his stats, I will throw up a picture of all of his stats starting now, but I'm only going to talk about senior season because that's the one that I care about. In that senior season, he'd average 20.5 points, 1.5 steals. He'd average 5.5 assists, 4 rebounds. He'd shoot 41% from the 3 and 47% from the field. And he took about 7 3-pointers a night, which is super impressive. But here's the important part, the awards. He was a consensus All-American, the Pac-12 Player of the Year, 2-time All-12 Pac-12 team, 2019 All-Pac-12 Tournament player, and the Pac-12 Tournament MVP, while also just being a hometown loyal boy to the Oregon Ducks. He was one of the best players in college basketball in the 2019 to 2020 season. The problem was he was a 6'2", 190-pound point guard who was kind of undersized and did play for a bad Oregon team. And when going into the draft, you want a younger player with tools and everything, but he just was a good basketball player. That's what Payton Pritchard was. He was just a good basketball player and he knew what to do. Some of his numbers for the scores in the NBA draft.net profile would be his intangibles were a 9. His passing was an 8. His jump shot was an 8. NBA ready was an 8. Ball handling was an 8. A lot of 8s and 9s, right? And he would end up getting compared to Jalen Brunson, which is a crazy bag pull. We're going to get into that comparison in a second because it is an insane pull because Payton Pritchard has done nothing to rival the career of Jalen Brunson yet. But some of the strengths that were talked about in his draft profile was that he developed into a star in his senior at Oregon. So maybe he was finally tapping into some of that potential later on in his career. He was a great competitor, a big game performer at the point guard percentage, and he was a high percentage 3-point shooter with a lot of range. He was an excellent catch and shoot shooter and could see the court very well and was an accurate passer and was a great leader. Basically, he did everything on offense for this Ducks team and was a great leader. He was quite literally the captain and the motor of this Ducks team, which proved to be a very, very positive part that would end up seeing him sneak into the first round eventually of the NBA draft. The weaknesses, though, was that despite his high free throw percentage, he struggled to draw fouls and get to the line. He was one of the older guards in the draft. His foot speed wasn't the best. His shot selection was inconsistent. But when you're the focal point of an offense for Oregon, you are going to take some rough shots. His ceiling in his first couple of years may just not be reached because of the minutes that he's going to get. And now this is the most important part of this video. Why is he compared to Jalen Brunson? I understand this comparison was made to Mavericks Jalen Brunson, but knowing what we know now about Jalen Brunson, this is so unfair to Payton Pritchard, who is a very good NBA player, but he's not Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson is different gravy when it comes to being an NBA player. Jalen Brunson is one of the better NBA players ever. He's a phenomenal NBA player, a very good NBA player. I don't see the comparison here. Maybe that's just me, but Jalen Brunson, very, very good. The stats aren't going to be similar. Now, do I think if Payton Pritchard got the opportunity on like a Phoenix team to really just play at a super high level, could he put up Jalen Brunson numbers? 1000%. I 100% believe that, but he's never going to. I think he's going to be the starting point guard for Boston next year. I think he's going to win 5 championships or something like that crazy. And Boston is just going to be another just dynasty over again with the Thunder just rivaling every year in the playoffs. And we're going to get tired of it like the Warriors Cavs saga that we saw. But yes, this was so unfair to Jalen Brunson, this comparison. Now that we look at it at the time, I guess it wasn't awful. And with perspective, this was a pretty bad comparison because I mean, the games are similar, right? The way they play is similar, but I don't think Payton Pritchard will ever be Jalen Brunson. I don't know if he'll ever get an All-NBA team. Let me act like he probably won't. All right. But what Payton Pritchard has done this year in upping his points per game total to 14 on 47% from the field and 42% from 3 is honestly 6th man of the year numbers. He hasn't started one game this year yet, and he's played in 68 of them. He's had immense patience. If I was Payton Pritchard, I would have won it out of Boston by now because I know I have the tools in order to be a great player in this league. You guys can look for yourself at his other stats throughout his seasons in which, you know, he barely played or got like 15 minutes a night. But these last 2 years, he's really taken advantage of opportunities given to him, which is very, very exciting for the future of Boston in the point guard position. I think he's going to fit very well in the system, especially with Derek White there to play defense on guards. He's going to be fine. Boston's going to be fine. Jrue Holiday's getting old. They have a great guy next up. Now I have some of his highlights pulled up from his 28-point performance in Philadelphia. I just want to show you kind of what makes Payton Pritchard's game so elite when he actually gets the opportunity. As you see, here's Pritchard down here. Look at this catch and shoot 3. I mean, that's automatic. He has a sexy jumper. His jumper looks amazing, and it goes in so often that you just know that he's destined to be one of these white boy catch and shoot 3s, but he can also create at the point guard position. Another one here, coming around a back screen. For some reason, Andre Drummond leaves the man right here, which I really want to look at again. He just left the man, which I don't really understand. Kelly Oubre should have told him to stay home. He leaves. Pritchard's wide open. It's buckets every time. I don't really understand that play from Drummond, but he is a center guarding on the perimeter. Just look at that jumper, man. It is so clean, so smooth. I love every part about it. Another screen, another shot, the set foot catch and shoot. We talked about this in his draft profile with how elite it was. But anyway, he's wide open again. I don't know why he's getting left wide open. Just it's buckets every time. It doesn't matter what you do. Payton Pritchard is going to catch and shoot, and he is going to shoot a 3. Here he is as a primary ball handler on Jared Butler. Cross, spin, good finish inside, good intangibles, good IQ. Everything about Payton Pritchard continues to be expanded, especially when he gets the ball in his hands. He can still create, can still drive, and can still create his own shot. With that being said, I hope you learned a little bit about Payton Pritchard today. I'm going to go edit a lot of videos. I probably have to record one more. I don't know, but I appreciate you guys for watching as always. Like and stuff for more content. And yeah, let's go.